This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick Gilchrist. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Glasgow. This is your Drought and Climate Outlook and Briefing for Eastern Montana. Today is August 26, 2022, and all information contained within is current as of that date. A quick look back at our precipitation over the last 30 days. This is estimated via radar, but you can see that, given the time of the year, we are talking about late July into August covered by this period. We are talking about showers and thunderstorms, and you can see that given the precipitation that we're seeing in front of us, it is very spotty in nature. You can see that, central Montana looks like they've picked up a fair amount, southern Montana as well, but you get out east and especially into the northeast, you can see there's some pretty big holes there with areas that did not receive much in the way of precipitation at all. I know there's a lot of drought out there. There's a lot of concerns, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into some later slides. But see, the past 30 days, really splotchy hit and miss precipitation across eastern Montana. Recent fire activity, you can see we have seen a little bit of an uptick in fire. You can see there's a fair amount of activity across western part of the state, even to the panhandle of Idaho. Out on the east side, we do see some fires out there. We have picked up a few fires here and there, and so things are definitely on the upswing as far as fire activity goes. And, you can assume that we have had some thunderstorms here lately. We've also have a fair amount of activity going on outside, so it's not unusual, but, given the drought conditions that we have, certainly fire danger is going to be up higher, and we are going to continue to have fire concerns for the foreseeable future, at least certainly lingering into the month of September. Quick temperature recap looking at the month of July, so last month. See, Montana finished, much above average. You can see it was pretty warm, and when you break it down by county, you can see that was especially evident across the western side of the state. Still above average for the most part across the eastern side, but interestingly enough, averaged out that Sheridan County was right near average for the month of July. But again, by and large for the state of Montana, definitely on the warm side for July. And that trend has continued into August. We're talking about this being one of the warmest Augusts on record. Still got a few more days here to see how that all pans out, but looking at the statewide map here, west to east, and again, this is a fairly coarse resolution, but we're anywhere, 4 to even some areas 8 degrees above normal so far for the month. So it's definitely been pretty hot. And you can see that trend has continued all the way up to the Pacific Northwest as well, with these really hot temperatures so far for the month of August. Precipitation recap, again, for the month of July, a little bit interesting here given how dry things are right now. But, the month of July last month, Montana did finish above average precipitation wise. It seems like that was a long time ago, but we did get some thunderstorm activity. We did see a fair amount of precipitation put down with said thunderstorms, but you can see that again, spotty in nature, right, due to the nature of showers and thunderstorms. Southwest Montana still finishing below average, but a good chunk of northeast Montana and eastern Montana finishing at average or slightly above average for precipitation totals for the month of July. When we get to August, however, again, spotty precipitation totals, right? You can see that a lot of far northeastern corner of Montana, even parts of north central Montana finishing, a fair amount below normal for the month of August, precip-wise. Some areas, again, spotty in nature, finishing slightly above normal. So again, this is the not unusual given our propensity for showers and thunderstorms during this time of the year and how spotty that precipitation can be. But you can see there is a big difference between the haves and the have-nots. If you're under the core of that thunderstorm, you got precipitation. If you were just outside of it, you did not get precipitation. So it can be a little bit deceiving on some of these maps as to what the actualities were with precip totals for the month. But you can see some areas again, especially where I'm at in Glasgow here, I can say it's definitely been on the dry side, no doubt about it. Precipitation for the year. You can see that as a whole, the state of Montana, again, interestingly enough, finishing near average. But of course, Montana is a very large state. When you break it down by county, you can see some, below normal, below average precipitation rankings. Again, this just runs through July for portions of west central Montana and a lot of areas, at least through the month of July, getting closer to average. Again, I think with some of the dryness that's happened over the last 30 days, I think some of this might change here when we get the newer maps here when we get into the second week of August or so. or excuse me, second week of September when these maps become available. Temperature recap, again, pretty much on the warm side here. You can look at that high line region here along the Canadian border, all the way through Flathead County, above average temperature-wise for January through July. A lot of areas closer to average. It'll be interesting to see with this warm August that we've seen how that affects the overall picture for the year. But when you average it coast to coast in the state of Montana there, finishing near average, 85th warmest overall. Quick look at your climate snapshots. I think this shows an interesting tale here where, Billings has gotten some decent precipitation totals, for some good storms. You can see these substantial jumps upward here. One late June, another one later in July, where they've gotten some good precipitation totals, and that's really helped them out. You can see Billings right now is about 119% of normal. Glasgow, on the other hand, again, this is where I'm from. You can see very much on the dry side, no doubt. Only about 72% of normal, and that kept that is 2.88 inches below normal since the 1st of January, and that's just for this year. Obviously, last year being one of the driest years we've seen, so we are definitely feeling the effects of those precipitation deficits, and things are mighty dry out here. Looking elsewhere, and again, this is just January through June. But you can see a lot of areas still fairly dry. Still don't quite have those July numbers in yet, but very much on the dry side. 80% of normal in Plentywood, 73% at Burdett, 72% at Wolf Point. Terry's doing a little bit better, 87%. Glendive and Carlisle, again, Carlisle being southern Webo County, seem to be doing very much on the better side. But of course, we know conditions have dried out since then, and that things are changing, and they aren't changing for the better necessarily. When we get outside of eastern Montana, you can see Miles City 74% of normal, Great Falls 80% of normal, Havre 70% of normal. So we're not alone in feeling the effects of these really dry conditions out here. Looks like a lot of the state of Montana is feeling the effects of pretty dry conditions. So looking at our drought monitor for the state of Montana, this is where our current situation is. You can see, again, our drought really, if you had to bullseye, it would be along the northern Rocky Mountain front there, just north of Great Falls, and that's where you have that D3 extreme drought. But you can see we still have that D2 severe drought extending as far east as Fergus and Blaine counties, and then moderate drought continuing into western Roosevelt County. So we are seeing some dry conditions out here. We have seen heard a lot of reports of some, substantial, deteriorating conditions across Petroleum, Garfield counties. And this is where I just want to encourage you to, the easiest way to find it would be to Google the Drought Impact Reporter, Montana Drought Impact Reporter, and pass on your information that you have. If you're having to make tough decisions, if you're having to adjust your operations to account for how dry conditions are, please pass that on. That information is vital for those decision makers to make the best decisions possible regarding our current drought circumstance. Next 7 days, forecast-wise, it looks like we do have a little bit of precipitation in the forecast. In fact, as I'm speaking now, there's some showers and thunderstorms out there forming up. But it looks like we're going to be reasonably unsettled at least into the weekend. So it looks like tonight, even into tomorrow and then into Sunday, got a little bit of some systems pushing through. Could see some chances for showers and thunderstorms off and on. Looks like temperatures will be a little bit cooler for Sunday, but like we've seen so much here, it looks like by the time we get into next week, we're looking for hot and dry conditions to return. It looks like temperatures will be well up into the 90s and bright sunny skies. So again, no real relief expected here in the short term for drought. And even looking at our 8 to 14 day outlook, see a pretty strong signal out there for above normal temperatures, across much of the western United States, and then of course across the state of Montana, North Dakota, and Minnesota. Pretty strong signal there for below normal chances for precipitation. So it looks like those hot and dry conditions are going to last, well into beyond the first week of September. And I wanted to point this out as well. So the Weather Prediction Center has put out, potential for hazards out there in that day to 8 to 14 day. And not only are we targeted here in this red outline for excessive heat, but they are targeting much of western North Dakota, even into central North Dakota, portions of South Dakota, and far eastern Montana for a potential for rapid onset drought. So it looks like they're anticipating maybe some drought conditions returning to some of those areas that we had managed to get some decent precipitation totals earlier this year. So just be on the lookout for this, that there's a possibility there for rapid onset drought, which of course is definitely not ideal. So our drought outlook here, you can see looking for a drought to persist across much of central Montana, north central Montana, even a little bit of expansion upon that as well, right? That drought development likely, and you can see that extends even into portions of western North Dakota. So that this is, showing that looks like as we get into that month of September that those dry conditions are going to prevail. Looking at our September outlook for the rest of that month, you can see above normal temperatures expected across the Four Corners region, but that also noses up through Wyoming into southern Montana and southeast Montana. So it looks like it could be on the warmer side for the month. And then, equal chances across the far west, but as you get towards the east, we start to dry out, it looks like. So it looks like, warmer, drier conditions to persist into the month of September. 3-month outlook, October, November, December. So this is kind of our fall and maybe even early winter outlook. You can see that those above normal temperatures still lingering across southern Montana with more equal chances, which would be maybe count on more normal type temperatures there for much of eastern Montana, especially northern Montana there. Interestingly enough, that October, November, December timeframe looks like they are favoring some better chances for above normal precipitation across that northern Rockies region there, the Panhandle of Idaho into northwest Montana. Maybe some of that will creep across the divide, but right now, still favoring more normal type chances for precipitation during that time frame. And then, of course, the wintertime outlook. This is, and a lot of people have been talking about this lately. So this is the latest for December, January, and February. And you can see that still continuing to favor above normal chances for precipitation across western Montana, and that now creeping across the divide into central Montana as well. So maybe we'll have a little bit of a turn. Certainly, we would love to see some better chances for precipitation. But, this is interesting as well that this northern tier of Montana and northwest Montana seem to favor colder than normal chances for temperatures for that December, January, and February timeframe with equal chances across the southern, 2/3 of the state. So looks like it could be, maybe more normal for some and maybe a little bit cooler and a little bit wetter for others. So we'll just have to keep monitoring this as we get closer to it because, I know certainly a lot of people are thinking about what this winter is going to bring. And that concludes your Weather Ready climate briefing. Next briefing will be somewhere around the mid part of the month of September, but be on the lookout for that. But thank you for attending, and we'll see you on the next one.